Ladies and gentlemen, we have a stadium name. New Forest Place is the place we are going to be calling home here at Wanderers FC. This was one of the top rated comments. I did see the Andy Whitehouse and the FM25 delayed arena. In the end, I decided to go with this name. Originally, when Wanderers FC were founded, they were founded under the name Forest Football Club, and they actually played at a stadium called Forest Place. When they lost that stadium, that's when they became the Wanderers, because they didn't have a stadium spot. So they wandered around London. So I feel like we're going full circle here. And yeah, New Forest Place is where we're going to play, although you maybe can see it behind the pitch condition here. The Andy White stand exists, and the Ajaria end is also a stand. We had to, get some of the legends involved somehow. Anyway, today we are back with the Champions League knockout stages. We are taking on Porto in the round of 16. I feel like this is a relatively kind draw, but then again, I thought that last year against Dortmund, it went very wrong, didn't it, against Dortmund? Now, in terms of January transfer window, we signed absolutely no one. In fact, I'm looking at dealings here. Did I do any deals yet? Gabadebo has left the club to go to Wolverhampton Wanderers, and elsewhere, one more departure. Norlin left for £3.3 million. Two players who were kind of okay backups, but they weren't playing enough. They were complaining about a lack of first-team football, and even when I've had injury crisis, I've not really had to call upon them. Oh, and some exciting news today before we run the intro. Alfie Dorrington is back. He has risen from the dead. He's back to the Champions League. Let's run the intro. I've got, I think, 16 matches of Football Manager to catch you up on. Yes, folks, how is it going? And a warm welcome back. It's episode number 76, if I'm not mistaken, of Park to Prem here with Wanderers FC, and it is the round of 16 against Porto, a Porto team who've done quite well in their run in the Champions League thus far. I'll be honest, they weren't the most convincing team in the group stage, although they did beat the reigning champions, PSG 3-0. They knocked out Rangers in the first knockout round, and in the round of 16, we're taking on Porto. When you look at some of the other teams we could have played against, it does feel like quite a good draw. Now, of course, last episode we took on Liverpool and Manchester United. We passed that test with flying colours, and since then, I've just plodded on with a whole lot of Football Manager. And in fact, in 16 games played, 15 wins, including, in this run, a record for most wins in a row since we joined the club. Anyway, in the month of January, you can see we got off to a really good start. 3-0 against Fulham, following up with another 3-0 win in the FA Cup, which we are still in right now as we approach the quarter-final. We then beat West Ham 1-0, and then a really emphatic result against Tottenham. 4-1 in this game here. It was closer than it looks when you see the scoreline. In fact, it was 1-1 until they had a sending off. In the second half, we pressed home that man advantage, and Gavin Wallace, man of the match performance for this guy. He is currently one of our best players in the team. Average rating across the season of 7.73. That is absolutely redonkulous. 16 assists, 9 goals. And yeah, he was a big difference maker against Tottenham. With that result against Tottenham, we extended our winning run to 10 wins in a row. That was a club record. Sadly, as soon as we set the new record, we drew, didn't we? Yeah, 1-1 against Real Madrid. Schlotterbeck with the goal age 34 for Real Madrid. And since scoring for them, he's gone on loan to Dortmund. Yeah, I don't understand Football Manager either. After that, we managed to annihilate Sheffield United 7-1 to get back to winning ways. A variety of goal scorers here. In fact, 7 different goal scorers in a 7-goal game is nice. And then in our final Champions League group stage game, we beat Bayer Leverkusen 2-0. And with that result there, we did cement our spot at the top of the table. Interesting to note, both Man City and Tottenham, of course, of the Premier League, hot on our heels. And if you're wondering about Wolverhampton Wanderers of the Championship, they missed out on the knockout rounds by goals scored. So sorry to the Championship Wolves fans who had to endure a relegation. Good news though, your boys are in the automatic promotion spots. And since then, it really has just been a great run. 5 clean sheets in a row in the Premier League. Started off with a 7-0 win against Blackburn. Admittedly, with the exception of Chelsea, these are games that we should be winning, but we still have to win them. Yeah, 5-0 against Ipswich, 1-0 against Chelsea was a good one. Leicester, 3-0. Coventry, 4-0. Coventry, yeah, not very good. They're bottom of the table. You can see it. They've not scored in their last 5 games. They've conceded 14 goals in that time. We managed to win in the FA Cup 5th round against Bristol City. That has seen us, of course, move, as I've already mentioned, into the quarterfinals, where we have been drawn against Championship opposition in Burnley. I mentioned the fact that we've set a record winning run. Why is that so hard to say? Yeah, we've set a new record winning run. We're actually currently on a similar record that's not that far away from our previous record. The draw against Real Madrid really is just the only result where we've not looked so good. This perhaps the most testing game in the recent run of games against Arsenal. But we managed to win this game 2-1 in the end. A very, very late goal snatched the win for us. McHugh bringing it forward. And yeah, 2-1 this game went on to finish. Arsenal, of course, you might remember they had an awful start to the season. They've stuck with Pep Guardiola. He's got them right up back towards the top of the table. Their recent form, if we just have a peek at it, has been way better as of late. Ignore the games against ourselves and Everton. They had been on a better run of form. They are still down in 7th, mind you. And while in terms of things for us, this is why I've played so much Football Manager since you were last here. We are just running away with the league. I feel like league games suddenly don't take on quite the same significance, and I want to get the Champions League monkey off my back, because having bottled it against Dortmund in the first leg of the first knockout round that we played in last season where we lost 4-0, desperate to not see that repeat itself, you can see we are 10 points clear ahead of Manchester United. Tottenham, the only other team really close to us, 19 points ahead of Everton in 4th, is absolutely spectacular. It almost feels a bit anticlimactic to be running away with the league like we are. Granted, there's still 9 games left. We can't get complacent. But at least for today, we are going to shift our focus to the Champions League, which is where we're going to be putting a lot of our eggs. Porto, definitely a beatable team. First leg is going to be away from home against them. Good news as well, there is no midweek game between these two Champions League fixtures, so we should hopefully be nice and rested for this one. Now, in terms of informed players, I mentioned Gavin Wallace has been absolutely sensational lately. In terms of attackers, we've been very good in this department too. Bernard Brennan, constantly coming on off the bench and just continuing to perform well, and actually just continuing to improve. I feel like years ago the man was allegedly hitting his potential. He's one of those players who just kind of, it feels like he keeps steadily improving and improving. Granted, he still has the first touch of an elephant, but besides that, he is just very good. And he's massive in the match engine, as a few of you guys have pointed out. However, for this game here, I think I am going to have him on the bench. I mentioned the fact Dorrington's coming back from injury. Of course, we signed Ronnie Edwards to be this stopgap option while Dorrington was out for months. Ronnie Edwards, right as Dorrington came back, tore his own calf muscle back in January. He's still out for up to 2 months. And to be fair, with the exception of our backup goalkeeper in Le Chevier, the rest of the team is at full strength, which is a really great position to be in. Barrett should be on the left-hand side. I really should just update my saved best 11 here, shouldn't I? Do people know this is a thing? Did you know that you can save a preset 11 in Football Manager? I'm sure most of you do know, but there'll be one person who's new to the game who doesn't know that you can kind of create these presets. So now whenever I click best 11, Barrett will be on the right side of the pitch. And by the right side, I actually mean the left side. When I say right, I mean the correct side. This is very confusing. Ignore me. But all in all, we are just a killing machine right now. I'm going to hope we turn up in the Dragon's Den against Porto and continue on our quest. Yeah, there's just green links between all the players. Barrett just continuing to score goals. Got one against Arsenal, his former club. To be honest, I don't want to say it too loudly, he's probably better than Rashid Mohammed. Wherever Rashid is, I hope he's not heard that. I feel quite relaxed right now, but then again, I felt relaxed before. Have they got Fede Valverde in there? They've got Fede how old is he in this universe right now? 35 years old, Valverde, running their midfield. If we don't beat them, we are washed. What I was about to say before I got distracted was I kind of went in with a similar mindset when we took on Dortmund last year, and it was away from home, if I'm not mistaken, that first leg. They battered us 4-0. It did feel like one of those games where they just scored from every attack they had, and there wasn't a lot we could do. Maybe that's just me coping a little bit with the trauma that was inflicted on that day. Of course, we nearly came back. We actually won the second leg 3-0 and went out 4-3 on aggregate. I feel like home and away advantage is very significant over 2 legs. I feel like Football Manager has some kind of chaos multiplier. I don't know if anyone agrees. Does anyone else feel like the 2-legged games in Football Manager just have some weird and wacky score stuff that's different to the rest of the game? Maybe it's just me. Either way, I feel like if we draw this first leg, that sets us up nicely for the second. Granted, when you look at the teams on paper, we should be doing better than we are right now. There's not been a highlight in the entire half. That was awful, wasn't it? I mean, on the plus side, it can only get better in this second half. I was a bit worried that having recorded for kind of 9 or 10 minutes the intro-y bit, that maybe I was talking too much given the fact we've got 2 games today. But you know what? Based on what we've just had in the first leg, I guess it's going to be fine. Henderson, Flood, Hatwell. Action to start the half. Trubbin forced into a save. Okay, well, we had one speculative replay in our favour from a long-range shot. Now, Porto with a corner. I'm not enjoying this. Just Vivachenko, Mane, Decore, Gonzalo Borges plays it in. Valverde scores. Of course he scores. Of course he's the man who scores. It was always going to be him. There is a VAR check. It's going to count, isn't it? I've talked smack about this man. He's just scored against me. I'm convinced that Football Manager can hear you when you play. I feel like I need to deny Football Manager permissions to listen to my microphone on my PC. The game knows. He's the only man in the box, and somehow he's the man who gets on the end of it for them. We've not yet had a shot on target in this game. I was just thinking about how I want to change things here. I might be thinking about it too hard. Maybe I'm delaying too much. I need to make some changes here. Personnel changes, perhaps the aim of the game. If I want to look at a positive, perhaps, we do have just an abundance of talent on the bench. We're in a position where we really can just reinvigorate the team with some fresh legs if we want to turn up the pressure. But maybe the players on the pitch are capable of doing it on their own. They whip it in towards Sheldon. It's cleared away, but Henderson's going to keep it alive, bringing the ball forward, cutting in on his right foot, gives it to Ajaria. That was a great pass. Andy White, straight at the goalkeeper. Okay, fresh legs needed. Barrett's not been at his best in this one. I'm going to bring in Bernard Brennan. I'm going to bring in Steele as well for White, who has not been at his best. In the midfield, Gavin Wallace. I bigged him up pre-game. He's been disappointing. But like I already mentioned, we have these players we can bring on to really reinvigorate things. Dorrington coming back from his injury has not been at his best, so I'm going to switch him out too. 4 subs to be made at once. Is that the play? You know what? I think I'm going to go more more radical than that. I'm going to bring in Townsend at right wing back as well. I feel like if in doubt, fresh legs is the aim of the game, at least when it comes to our team. Okay, Townsend, the late sub made that last sub, making all 5 subs at once is a gamble, but Townsend's a man who can make stuff happen, as is Flood, as is Lloyd Weston. His shot goes just wide. It was blocked or deflected or saved or something. We've still got the corner. We've had chances in this game. I mean, was that a shot on target? I think it was. At least we've had 2 shots on target, apparently, now. I'm going to demand more here. I mean, the positive is we're not losing like we were against Dortmund 4-0 in the first leg. The bad news is we're not winning this one either, and we are down a goal. It's been a close game. We actually are currently exceeding their XG. We have created a little more in this game than them. Of course, that Valverde moment of brilliance, the difference maker right now. And well, they've shown their capability to score already, Porto, so when they have the ball, we have to show them some respect. Corby Hatswell gives it back to Henderson here, who's maybe going to look to play it back inside to Hatswell. A little bit of space for our defensive mids to operate in. Brennan is picked out. He lays it to Sheldon. That is a crazy pass. Townsend could put it in the box, does put it in the box. It goes past everyone. Really nice build-up play here. A tackle goes flying in. Brennan shoulders it off. Falls the way of Lloyd Weston. Mick Garry, look at the players in the box. They're queuing up. Hatswell hits the woodwork. And Porto are currently ruining my winning run, I realise. We're on another winning run. I don't want to lose it again in the Champions League. We've got not long to save it. I'm going to move Townsend forward and play him as an inside forward on attack. Hatswell, Segundo Volante on attack. I probably don't need to go all that attacking in this game here, given the fact it is a 2-legged tie. But I feel like we're on the front foot. We're pressing home an advantage. Let's try and do one over on them. I feel like we've got the capability to do that here. Saying all of that, I might believe I've got the capability to do that. The players are not showing it. 3 minutes of added time at the end of this first leg is going to come and go. I talked about Porto being an easy tie. I talked about walking into the Dragon's Den. I'll tell you what, the Dragon has blown some fire and we've run the other way. Trubbin, for them, their key man, did get man of the match in goal. He was absolutely outrageous in this one. Okay, well, I'm going to tell the players I'm not happy. It's only a goal deficit. We don't need to, panic too much just yet. We can definitely come back from this. But we are going to have to do it when we're back in 8 days' time. Good news, no league games to distract us. I can rest up the players, but having been on such a good run, just to see our attacker completely stopped by a 35-year-old Valverde is just a little bit sad, isn't it? Anyway, like I said, that next game, 8 days away. Don't need to rest up the players. There's no game to worry about. I'll see you in a mo. Now, I'm not going to say I'm a jinx, but I just thought about Pep Guardiola still being at Arsenal and turning a corner. He's just been sacked. 47 games in charge, 42 win percentage with a team that last year and the year before won the Premier League. And now Jack Wilshere is their caretaker manager. This is a bizarre timeline. Anyway, as much as I'm enjoying the demise of Pep Guardiola, I still need to try and come back against Porto. 8 days rest we've had. We need a comeback. It's going to be made more difficult by the fact that our first choice goalkeeper in Anson has gone and got injured. Good news, he's not out for too long, 4 to 8 days. Bad news, Josh Griffiths is to be our goalkeeper in a Champions League game. The 32-year-old who, let's be honest, hasn't played that many games for us and hasn't played amazingly when we've called upon him, is going to have to play here. I'm still adamant that for £35,000, what a great buy. Now, if I want to find a positive, that is the only injury to speak of. There is a temptation here to really change things up, and I think actually I am going to make one personnel change. I'm going to bring in Shawnee Steele. He's been developing amazingly this year. 8 goals in 9 Champions League games, granted, majority of those, of course, being the league stage games. I have faith in him to come in here. He's just Mr. Champions League. When it comes to the rest of the team, as much as I could be super reactionary off the back of that last performance, look, we lost 1-0. They had 1 shot. We didn't really create enough either, but we were away from home, and I think the quality that we have should show in a home game. It's not like we're immediately out of this game and, you know, it's an unassailable thing like it was last year against Dortmund, because, yeah, 4-0, going into a second leg trying to turn it around was never going to be possible, realistically. 1-0, definitely feels doable. I'll tell you what, if Sean Steele kind of scores here, he might just become my Champions League striker. We'll just play him exclusively in Champions League games. Granted, at this point, if anyone wants to score, that would probably be also quite good. Was shocked, to be honest, at how well Porto shut us down in that last game. They were really, really impressive. They are playing this 3-man midfield, and I do feel like against our setup, it does sometimes hurt our ability to get the balls to the strikers. So I'm going to go for a change that you guys have seen me use a few times, I feel like, during this save game. We're going to look to play a little wider, look for the overlaps that little bit more, and just try and stretch the pitch wide. Their wider attacking players weren't really tracking back in that previous game. If we can get in behind them, I feel like we could cause them some issues. Saying all of that, we're 35 minutes into this half. 0 highlights. And still 0 highlights until now we're now there on the attack. This is just like the first leg in terms of lack of opportunities early on. Gomez, Valverde shoots, imagine. Imagine if that had gone in. At that point, the football manager is definitely listening to me. 2 minutes of added time at the end of this first half. Going to come and go. I mean, positives, they've not had a shot on target. Negatives, we've not scored. And that is a problem. I'm actually going to make a change that I've made a few times this year in games where I've needed to change things around. And that is to bring in Mick Hugh and actually play him as a centre mid on attack, slightly further forward. I'm actually, I think, also going to bring Wallace forward here and play him as a winger. Just get him a little further forward up the pitch. Look for those overlaps a little bit more. Definitely giving up a bit of defensive solidity now, but Porto haven't created a great deal, and we have to do something better in this second half. Okay, immediately a corner. Maybe this is a good sign. Flood giving it short. He whips in. Dorrington leaps and heads it just over. That was an opportunity. Ajaria over on the right-hand side. Throws it to Steele. Inside to Flood. Andy White threaded the ball, but of course he's the man who normally plays in the middle. Lack of options. He has to hold it up, which he does. Flood as that Regista with a little bit more space now to move across the pitch without a defensive mid alongside him. Gives it to Henderson. He's going to bring it forward. He whips it towards Andy White, who floats it to Barrett, and it is a bolt from the blue. No, it's not. Let's be honest, that is not a good goal. I'm trying to big that up like it's some kind of banger. It's a loopy cross to a loopy cross. It's a bit like volleyball, you know? What is it? It's set... No. Dig, set, spike? Is that the order of moves you're meant to do in volleyball? Whatever. Barrett has spiked the ball down there. We've got the point. We've got the goal. It's 1-1. Last game, I was making a load of changes on the hour mark. Right now, I don't really want to change anything. We've scored one. We're on the attack again here with Ajaria. Flood to Phillips. Back to McHugh. He's fallen flat on his face. The penalty's been given. There is a VAR check just to confirm the decision. The Porto players are insinuating there was a dive. He is not that kind of player, Mick Hugh. He's earned us a penalty, and now all eyes are on, well, the man of the save game, Andy White, to put us ahead for the first time in this Champions League fixture. The number 9 steps up, the number 9 tucks it away, and it is 2-0, and it's his 23rd of the season. Gifted the opportunity from the spot, and that is a gift we are not going to waste. I can relax just a little bit. I mean, at this point, I am going to move Mick Hugh back, I think, and just play him as a defensive midfielder on defend. I think Wallace equally as well now at this point can probably just drop back. And the same I'm going to do with Ajaria as well. I feel like we don't need to overcommit going forward. Fresh legs could be useful there. I'm going to bring in Watson, Lloyd Weston, rather. Ashley Phillips is looking a little worse for wear. I'm going to bring in Mick Gary for some fresh legs too at the back. And I feel like Porto didn't really look like scoring goals in the first half. And I feel like just reverting back to that slightly more defensive shape, probably just sensible. Or maybe it's stupid because they are now immediately on the attack. Gomez to Vivcharenko for them. Gives it back to a man whose name looks like a Pokemon's name. Vivcharenko with the ball, gives it to Garby, but he can't get it under his spell, and instead now the ball has been dispossessed, and Sean Steele is going to look to make something happen. Ajaria, donning that yellow Champions League captain's armband, skips past a few men, gives it back to Steele. Flood, nice build-up play here. Barrett, okay, you know what, that's a pretty goal, that's a better goal, that's 3-1, and maybe, just maybe, that puts it beyond doubt. Ajaria with a nice little run here, pulled a couple of men across. We got it to Steele. He played it to Flood. Flood picked out Barrett, and then he wraps his foot around it first time. I'll tell you what a signing Barrett's been. He has been a difference maker this year. Crazy that he got released by Man City. Arsenal weren't finding a use for him, and now he's come to us. And I'm going to be honest, he's been our best player this season. He's averaging almost an 8.0 rating across all fixtures. Oh my word, for a moment I thought Porto were going to get one back, and then suddenly I couldn't quite be as jovial. The header's gone wide. Instead of bigging up Barrett, maybe I should focus on what remains of this game. It was a little bit scary after the first leg, but we've managed to get the win at New Forest Place. 3-0 result, Chris Barrett with 2, Andy White from the spot, and Chris Barrett, what a man, what a bloke. Always nice to come back from behind in the Champions League. Elsewhere, Man City knocked out Manchester United, Real Madrid are through, Tottenham through as well. We win in the round of 16. We're only a few rounds away now, well, from the final. Although, probably getting a little carried away thinking about that, aren't I? We are into the Champions League quarter-final, and I assume ahead of my game against Burnley, which we're not doing today, there will be a Champions League draw to watch. Or maybe there's not. Maybe there's not. Has the draw already happened, actually? It might have done. Nope, the draw definitely hasn't happened. It just says unknown for the next round. Well, you know what? That's a mystery for next video. Who are we going to play? Come back to end the week tomorrow to find out. I feel like having last year gone down in the first leg and failed to come back, it's nice to be able to do that in a weird way in this game against Porto. Granted, I would have rather had a nice, comfortable game today. Really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think of the new stadium name. Let me know what you think of the team form. To be honest, last few episodes of this season, I think the focus is on the Champions League. The Premier League looks wrapped up. I'd like to do a treble. It is still on. Thank you so much for watching. It is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.